Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Thursday. It's 4 o'clock. You know what that means. It's time for another weekly chat with Pat. This week, we're talking about CSA. The CSA score, CSA points violations, what that means to you as a driver. So today, I've got Randy with me. He is the Director of Safety. So Randy, let's just jump right into it. CSA, what does that mean to a driver?
Well, a CSA score for a driver is their resume. That's their safety history, and it's very important for the driver to make sure that that's clean. When a driver gets a CSA violation, that stays with the driver for 3 years. All those points stay with the driver. And that includes warnings. It doesn't have to be a citation. It can be a warning. So any kind of violation is going to be awarded points, and that's going to stay with the driver for 3 years.
And that's an important fact because a lot of people think, well, they gave me a warning. It's not a big deal. But in the realm of CSA, it doesn't matter. It's the same either way.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah. So, points, we all talk, the points, obviously we know that, that carries with drivers. You're applying for a job, companies see these points on there, but we get points as well.
Yeah, exactly. So the company gets assigned points and that goes towards our overall CSA score. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, and our drivers, a low score is better, right? We don't want the points because, if we hit a certain threshold in any one of the basics, that can put us into an alert status. An alert status is going to automatically mean that our drivers are going to be pulled in for inspections. They're going to spend a lot more time at scale houses and places that they would prefer not to be, and getting more inspections. So, we want to avoid any kind of violations at all because we want to make sure that we're maintaining a good, safe CSA score as well.
So part of that is drivers doing a good pre-trip because I call them the gimme violations. It's a light out or missing mud flap. But they're going to get you points every time, and it's a reason for them to pull you in and get you inspected.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are just kind of like waving a flag and saying, "Hey, look at me because I've got a light out." They're going to notice that from a mile away and look a little deeper once they get you.
Right, and they're going to assume you probably didn't do a pre-trip, so now they're going to dig into you, and maybe you need that extra hour to get to your customer, and now because you didn't do a pre-trip, now you're detained an hour at a weigh station getting inspected.
Yeah, exactly.
So what can drivers do to avoid these? I mean, we've talked about it, countless times. I mean, the importance of a pre-trip is priceless. I mean, we've got to do good pre-trips on our equipment.
Absolutely, and it's really, you kind of alluded to it earlier, but I mean, it's really kind of the obvious things. It's brakes, lights, and tires. Okay, those are the things that stick out. Those are the easy things for an inspector to see a violation with. So at the very minimum, you should be making sure that all of that stuff is in good working order. Now, unfortunately, we've seen actually a kind of a little rash of bad inspections with tires. We've had last week alone, we had 3 flat tire violations. Now those are 30 points each for the driver.
Right.
And the equipment is also placed out of service. So that means that driver is sitting there until that equipment gets replaced or repaired so that they can continue down the road. So that's a big delay for the driver. So, and again, 30 points each,
right,
on the driver and on the company, that's not good for either one of us. So, those are just the simple ones, just make sure your lights are in good working order, make sure your tire pressure is right in all the tires. A lot of drivers will walk around and thump the tires. Well, you can't really tell the difference between a fully inflated tire and a partially inflated tire when you're thumping them. You really need an air gauge to do that.
Not only that, drivers, if you check the air pressure on the tires of your tractor on a regular basis, it helps with your fuel mileage as well. It's going to help save premature tire failure. You see cords sticking out of a tire, they're going to place you out of service. You get stopped at a weigh station, now you got to get a road, and depending on where you're at, the area you're in, it could be 6-7 hours to get a road service out there to replace a tire, and they're not letting you go nowhere. Right. They're going to keep you there.
Right. So just do the good pre-trip, and we'll avoid all that.
Exactly. Then part of that pre-trip is you should be trip planning. Checking where you're going to stop for that, because we see hours of violations where drivers go over because they didn't plan ahead and they can't get into a truck stop, and now they got to go over on their hours to get somewhere.
Yeah, and that's a couple of great points because we've got the CVSA road check coming up.
Right.
That's May 4th, 5th, and 6th. And this year, the focus is going to be on drivers. It's going to be on hours of service violations and looking at those. And I'll tell you one thing, we've seen an uptick in hours of service violations, partially because, law enforcement is really educated now on the ELDs. They really know how to look at all of those devices and find violations, much easier than they did even a year ago. And they're also going to be focusing on lights on the equipment, so again, kind of the easy, obvious things, So for our drivers, with hours of service, number one, make sure you don't have any violations, make sure you're paying attention to your ELD. That'll tell you when you have, how many hours you have available. Make sure that if it's telling you you don't have hours available, and you feel that's an error, that you're getting stopped and you're calling in to make the corrections that need to be done. But you don't want to have those violations on your log, because even if you had a violation, say last Saturday, okay, well, that's still on your 8 days worth of logs, and they're going to go back and they're going to find that one, and you're going to get a violation for that as well. So, hours of service, make sure you're paying attention to that. The other thing is, the obvious ones are, making sure that your trailer number is updated, your manifest number is updated on your log. Make sure that you know where your ELD instruction card is. That's in your permit book, along with your 8 days worth of blank logs. That's in your permit book. Your ELD instruction manual, the big manual, that's actually on the ELD device, or you could also find it on the Dart data tracker. So those are the violations for hours of service. And then kind of getting back to the good pre-trip to avoid any equipment violations. Again, they're going to be focusing on lights, so make sure you do good pre-trip inspections. Make sure if you're dropping a trailer that has some issues, you're reporting that, because we can't fix what we don't know is broken.
Exactly.
So make sure that you're getting that reported to Road Ready so that we can get repairs made, so the next person's not going to have a problem with that piece of equipment as well.
Yeah, because you drop a trailer with a couple lights out, and you think, let the next guy worry about it. Next guy comes in, now he sits there for 3 hours waiting to get getting a trailer fixed. Had we known about it, we could have had somebody come in and fix it ahead of time for that next driver. So think ahead with that. What else can you think of, Randy, for CSA with the road checks coming up?
Well, the other things that draw attention to yourself are, kind of the unsafe violations, speeding. If you're going to get caught speeding, they're going to be looking at other things, such as your logbook and your equipment, So, avoid speeding violations. Make sure you're, paying attention to the posted speed limits. Make sure you're watching for those areas where the speed limit changes. That could be coming into a construction zone. That could be coming into a town or a city, where they have changing speed limits, and they go from 70 miles an hour on the interstate down to 55. In a lot of those crossover areas, people, get violations. We also see lane violations. That's pretty frequent.
Yep, down around Georgia, being in that wrong lane.
Yeah, being in the wrong lane, and typically what happens when we talk to the drivers is that, they tried passing somebody, they got stuck out in that lane, and then they couldn't get back into the proper lane. So, be patient when you're in those areas. Those are all going to be around major metropolitan areas. So make sure you're patient. There's no need to pass. Just be patient. Stay in your lane. Don't get caught out there in a lane that you're not supposed to be in. And then the last one that we see very commonly is failure to obey.
Yep.
And most of the failure to obeys have to do with bypassing a scale house that you should have been pulled into. You know? So, all of our trucks are equipped with either pre-pass or drive-wise. Make sure you're paying attention to that device. That'll tell you if you have to pull in or not. But remember, you got to have a green light. On that pre-pass, it's got to be a green light. If it's yellow or red, you pull in. You got to have a green light for the bypass, and then the drive-wise will tell you right on your OmniTrax device if you can bypass or not.
Now, I know there's a few drivers out there, Randy, who actually have both. I know contractors who've got driveways and then they get the best pass on their own. It's important for them to understand, if one of them gives you a bypass and the other one tells you to pull in, you have to pull in.
Yeah.
If one gives you the red light, you have to go in. You can't go by. You got to stop.
Right.
The failure to obey will get you every time. I've always said too, I think drivers who you see it with trucks, their dashboard's cluttered with paperwork. That's just hey, let's check this guy out because he's probably not up to date on everything else.
Well, if you're not up to date on your housekeeping, they're going to assume that there's other things that you're taking shortcuts on. So make sure that you're, not drawing attention to yourself. But you know what, CVSA road check, that's nothing for us to worry about. I mean, just make sure we're doing good pre-trip inspections, make sure that our logs are up to date, that we don't have violations, all the things that we should be doing on a regular basis as well. But, you do those types of things and you're not going to have anything to worry about.
Exactly. And drivers, if you have questions out there, reach out to one of us in safety. We're more than happy to answer them questions for you. If you've got a concern, just let us know. We'll get that answer for you. If we don't know it, we go to Randy because he will know it.
Or we'll find out.
All right, I've got a special note from Jennifer Hurley. She wants me to read here. One of our customers, Home Depot, is needing your help, drivers. They're wanting your feedback on several of their facilities to help make them better and provide you with the best possible experience. Keep an eye out for an email from Rich Kallman, VP of Operations, on how this process will work. Our customers want to make your experience at their facilities the best possible, so take time to complete the survey if you're routed to one of these locations that are participating. That's from Jennifer Hurley. So, keep that in mind, drivers. You see that email from Rich, just it's going to tell you what they want us to do. So, all right, everybody, that's it for this week. Thanks, Randy, for being here. I'm hoping we can do this again. Some good tips here with the CSA stuff coming up. If you're a driver that's on top of your stuff, you really have nothing to worry about with this road check coming up in May. If you do have concerns, get your truck through one of our shops, have them do an inspection on it, get through, make sure you're up to date on everything. Again, it's a good time to update your permit book as well. I know, the new IFTA stickers we're out, and we're renewing registration and stuff this time of year. So make sure you're up to date on all of that. Get your stuff ready. Till next week, remember, drivers, don't be so busy out there building a life for yourself you forget to have a life. We'll catch you next Thursday.